Welcome to the MiLB Baseball Getting Ready for the Season webinar. Today we have two presenters. First one is Melissa McMurtry. She's a customer trainer here and is a part of the live events department at Daktronics. Her responsibilities include educating customers on operational aspects of control systems through on-site visits, webinars, and over the phone. McMurtry also provides on-site technical and event support. We also are going to have Mark Maller here. He currently works as a customer trainer within the Daktronics live event division as well. His duties include providing consultations and assisting customers with software, hardware, and production. Maller also provides on-site technical and event support in the U.S. as well as internationally. And we've got some more details there if you wanted to read up on our presenters, but we'll just leave it at that. Just one more note before we do begin. We did ask earlier, you can certainly speak up when you want to. We will take a break about halfway through to answer any questions, so if you want to save your questions or if you're thinking of a question, you certainly could put it in the chat and we'll go over them about halfway through, and then we'll also take time at the end to go over any final questions that you may have. And then you can certainly unmute your phone if you do have a comment that you may want to make right away. Otherwise, you can certainly add it at that chat pod down below. So with that, let's go ahead and give Melissa presenting rights, and Melissa, you can go ahead.
Okay, hopefully everyone should be able to see my window.
Yeah, looks good, Melissa.
Perfect. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks again for joining us. As mentioned, I'm Melissa. I'll be conducting this webinar. Today we're going to cover how to do a preseason check, review tips for maintaining a control system, cover new features, provide tips and tricks, and how to contact your Daktronics support team. As Danielle mentioned, please use that chat window for any questions during the presentation. Today, I will start with the steps to get your system season ready. This starts with the proper startup and shutdown procedures. In most cases, a startup shutdown document was left on site for you by a trainer or a technician. However, if you are unfamiliar with the procedures, you can reference our Daktronics Control Systems YouTube page. So you'll see here, we have several videos on Daktronics Control Systems. You can select a specific playlist that relates to your equipment. For example, under this playlist tab, Show Control with DMP 7000, we've got a list of videos here, and you'll see how to properly start up and shut down your Daktronics control system. Also, we can use the Daktronics.com/support page, and in this search tool, if we type in startup, shutdown, the first result is a knowledge base article that includes step-by-step directions for a variety of control systems that you see here. The majority of sites have been configured with an initialize and/or startup button. These buttons hold important script lines that complete the startup process. Depending on when your system was installed, your initialize button, so as we see here, we go into the properties. It will include setting your input to SDI or composite, setting your source to overlay or video mode or whatever mode your system is running in, and then viewable and window area, and this is just the starter. Also, we have this startup button. In the startup button, you'll be playing your black or blank file to your host sign. You can see that here. This button could also hold lines of script to open windows on your host sign as well. You may have one or both of these buttons on your system. If you have both, the initialize button should be pushed pre-season, or if your VIP settings have been changed, and the startup button is pushed prior to every event. Once your system is turned on and running, make sure to save your backup files on an external drive. We can't stress this enough. During this process, you want to get your system season ready. You have to hit that initialize button that we just reviewed to set those VIP settings. These files are also known as VLC files, and you want to make sure to back these files up. To do this, browse over to the Venus 7000 shell. Click on the V-Link controller icon in the bottom right-hand corner. And once this controller pops up, click on Details. At the bottom of the box, you have two save options: Save Configuration Settings and Save All Channel Configurations. If you have settings on multiple channels, select All Channels. And if you're currently using one channel, select the Save Configuration option. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And then go ahead and save these files on your C or D drive. So here I have my C drive in the Venus 7000 folder, and then in the V-Link configs folder. This folder is not pre-configured, this V-Link folder, so you may need to create it if it's not already done. You'll want to give your settings a unique name. So if this is just for my channel 1, SDI on sign, which is my sign size, and then of course it's my, and save. I can't get configuration settings because I'm not hooked up to a V-Link. Along with these files, you should back up your REG or registration files for your 7000 software. Return back to the 7000 shell. Click on the Configure button. At the bottom, you'll see Backup and Print. Click on Backup first. Maybe. And then click on Print. In the second monitor second pop-up, select Send Report to File. Click OK. And then OK, and OK to close out the configuration tools. Now these files are located again on that C or D drive. So browse to the Windows Explorer, go to your C drive, in the Venus 7000 folder, and then under REG Backups. Here you're going to want to sort by date modified. And then you're going to take the top 6 files and back these up on an external drive. For DMP 8000 systems, make sure to pull the layout file. The layout file, this one is located in the C program data. With the program data, make sure your files are, or your folder structures are shown. So any hidden folders, you want to make sure to show those because this program data file folder is hidden. Open up that and then go to Daktronics, VNet 4, and Content. This time I sort by the file type and then select my layout file. This file will be uniquely named, followed by the .layout extension. And finally, the Nucleus database file for your show control will back up your workspaces and buttons in Display Studio. Reference the Daktronics YouTube page for a step-by-step tutorial on this process. It is a best practice to do this every 30 days or with any major changes within your Display Studio. Before the season begins, it's important to review layouts and designs from the previous year. During this process, make sure to remove old files from both the primary and the backup machine. Common files that we still see on the computer are old player headshots and show opens that are no longer relevant. Also, if you do plan on changing your look, be aware that content sizes may change, so you may need to adjust some files for that. Now that your system is up and operational, we need to test the backup system. This includes your players and VIPs. It's important to do this prior to each event, not just for the preseason check. You can find a step-by-step tutorial again on switching from the primary to the backup system on our Daktronics YouTube page. I'm going to pass it over to Mark for any questions on anything we've covered so far.
Thanks, Melissa. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to unmute your microphone and ask away.
I see Carol's got her hand raised.
Yes, Carol.
I have a question. We have a different startup and shutdown procedure in our control room from when we had our training. Is that okay if we continue to use that order?
Yes. The link at the very beginning of the webinar and the ones you'll find on DAC.com and on our YouTube page, they might be worded a little bit differently, but the order should still be the same. You're more than welcome to print off our new startup and shutdown procedure and post it in your control room, but it should, it might have more equipment on the list because yours might be customized, but the order should essentially be the same.
Okay, thank you.
I know, Mark, we talk a lot about backing up files. So let's say, unfortunately, what if a computer needs to be repaired or something like that? Is that something that, I guess from your experience, does our technical support group help with that? Or I guess what would we do there to rely on those backup files? Like how could we use those if we needed them? How are they useful?
Yeah, so the main reason we have our backup files is, if we say a computer, something happens to one of the machines, one of the players, and we have to send it back. When we get if we have to get a brand new machine, we could then load all of those backup files to get you back to that state. Those backup files don't have content, so it's also a good idea to make sure to have a copy of all of your content on a external drive as well.
Yeah, I didn't think of that one. That's a good point. Any other questions for Mark before we move on?
One last thing, just touching on that backing up content. One thing that you could also do is all your files that are made in Content Studio. You could also go and back those up as well. If you have a VNS 7000 system, you would want to go into your V7000 folder, into your file size, and into the appropriate library, and you could copy those SQ7 and VMPF files. That way, if you have any RTD frames or anything like that, you could back those up as well. That way, the system is somehow completely wiped. You do not have to rebuild those.
Sure.
If you have a 8000 driven system, you want to go into that content folder and into your appropriate folder, and you will just have the VMPF there. You will not have an SQ7.
And I think as we're setting up for the new season, it's probably self-explanatory, but it's good to back up our files before maybe we go in and make changes to our layouts or things like that, because maybe we don't like our changes and have to go back to the previous look. And if we just save over top of last year's stuff, it can be hard to bring back. So sometimes it's good just to start fresh and keep last year's handy in case we need it.
Exactly.
All right, then let's go back to Melissa.
All great points. Everyone can see my screen now?
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on from players to stat software, programs such as SportsWire 4000, DakStats, and Game Day Baseball all need to be updated and licensed before each season. Here you're going to see a breakdown of the baseball packages offered. Included in the webinar downloads from the beginning is a reference document. You'll have detailed information on each of these packages and the cost. You should call into this number here and speak with a customer service representative and schedule an appointment to purchase or update any software. It's important to schedule an appointment in advance to get your software licensed. It's not something that you should be left to do a few hours before your first game. The number provided here will take you to a main menu. To schedule any maintenance or work, push 1 to speak to that customer service representative. Daktronics also offers different service packages that include routine annual maintenance checks. Don't worry, this number is located in the reference document as well. To round out your preseason check, now that all the stat software are up to date, ensure you're getting the stats by starting a new game in DakStats or your All-Sport controller, and then playing out content with RTD, or you can monitor the stats using Data Monitor. I already have a game running in DakStats, and I also have out-of-town scores pulled from SportsWire. I'm going to open up Display Studio. Once Display Studio is open, down in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got the DSTI widget. Go ahead and click on the arrows to bring that up. Here, you're going to see multiple stats options to monitor depending on your site. For instance, one being the Venus scoreboard stat on this UDP 21321, which is also referred to DakStats on your inputs on your DMP 7000. Click on the monitor icon next to that, and this is going to bring up that data monitor. And then down here at the bottom, you're going to see all that incoming stats. We can monitor additional UDP ports within this one data monitor. To do this, select on this drop down next to ports and click New. Name your port. And then select your port type. The most common is network, but you also have serial and file as an option. In this example, we're going to select network. For the port number, I'm going to type in 20,001. And this port number references our output, our first output in SportsWire. So you'll see here the 20,001. And that's what we're going to monitor in Data Monitor. So then go ahead and click on OK. It's automatically going to select that port, and then it's going to show us our stats populating down here at the bottom. At the very bottom of Data Monitor, we can select this DID view. If you're unfamiliar with a DID, it's similar to an ITF. I have an ITF example here. It holds all of the RTD field properties, such as item number, length, and description. The DID file, bring that up here, also shows you the same information. So if we look at this first line in our DID file, you'll see the item number, which is called offset in this case, the length, and the description. The DID file allows you to build those RTD presentations in Content Studio. Back in Data Monitor, next to DID in this dropdown, we're going to select Browse, and we're going to browse out for this DID file. Located on the Show Control computer under your C drive, Program Files 86, so this is different than when we were in Program Data. Still Daktronics, and then Content Studio, Standard Profile. We're going to browse down to our SportsWire Expanded Scores and hit Open. So here you can see what we're looking at. We're going to compare the data coming in to the correct item number, such as Game 1 Visitor Short Name. It's an easier way to view all of our stats in an organized fashion as opposed to a long list streaming in constantly. So once we find the field that we want to monitor, we can scroll over to the end and we can see the data that's coming in for that particular item. Here's some other common ports you can monitor using Data Monitor. Keep in mind that the labels may be different in Display Studio than what you see right here. Your control system should now be updated and fully running. The following are new features with the DMP 8000 player and some tips and tricks intended to increase speed and efficiency when working with your show control. First, the DMP 8000 now features a preload option. So back in Display Studio, here we have a preload button. With this button, if we go into its properties, in the top right-hand corner of the button, you'll see the arrows. This enables or disables your preload option. And what is preload? Preload is when you have multiple 8000 players and you need to sync content to different displays. You want to preload that content. When you have a preload button, when you click on it, it's going to bring out a pop-up menu on the right-hand side, and it's going to load all of your different files from your different 8000 players here. Once you have the preload complete with these green check marks, you go down and hit play. Another feature recently added is the playlist option. So here I have a playlist button. In the first step, we want to select 8000 player control. In step 2, we select our zone. In step 3, here's where it slightly differs. We want to select create playlist. And then in step 4, we're adding our content. So you'll see here that we have multiple pieces of content. And then next to the content, we have this box indicating 1 and 3. This is going to tell you how many times that specific file is going to play. So for an example, you need a sponsorship to play for 30 seconds, but the file is only 10 seconds. You can increase that number next to the file to play 3 times, totaling that 30 seconds before moving to that next item. So you can see here we can play this headshot file for 3 times before moving on to our next piece of content. You also have the ability to reorder these files. So we actually want this headshot to play first 3 times and then the Daktronics logo. So clicking and dragging, I'll do that again, reorders those files within your button. Then I go ahead and click Save. Staying within Display Studio, these next tips and tricks can be applied to systems with DMP 7000 or DMP 8000. So you have the ability to copy and paste buttons easily. We can do that by holding Control on our keyboard and then left-clicking and dragging your button. Now we can edit that button quickly by, again, hitting Control on our keyboard, but this time we're going to right-click. This takes us directly to the button properties. We can make any adjustments in here. So maybe I want this to just be a regular play file, and I will add my content. And I'm going to rename this. Now, I've recreated this button. However, my playlist that I copied it from, this has not changed. So I can still go in here and I can see my original playlist. So keep that in mind when you are doing copy and pasting, that those copy and paste will not be link back to your original file. Moving over to Content Studio. We launched Content Studio using this pencil icon in the top right-hand corner. I already have Content Studio open, so I'm going to go to my presentation here. Down in our timeline at the bottom, we have our layout bar. If we hold Alt on our keyboard and then hover over that layout bar, we can drag all our elements within that specific presentation. If we don't hold Alt, we can drag our individual layers within that presentation. And if we accidentally miss a layer, we can click on that and do Match Layout. Also down here in our timeline, you'll notice that we have different designs for each element within our presentation. The striped elements represent real-time data, and then the solid represent a text field or image. When you have a real-time data file or field selected, you'll notice that we have a Field Properties tab at the top. Within my presentation here, we have the ability to easily change a field property by using this drop-down menu. So for instance, right now I have these set to team short, so the guest team short name and the home team short name. Instead of having to drag over from my dynamic data library and rearranging them or realigning, I can come up to the top and select this drop-down menu, and I can easily change this to guest team name to display the full name. And then I can do the same thing for my home. Or if you have copy and pasted, you could do the same thing. So if I had all of my lineups copied, or my innings, I could copy those and then paste them and arrange them properly, and then changing that the same way using this Field Properties tab. Also, in the Field Properties tab, in this example here, we've got two items that are media RTD. So the spray charts and then my headshot, these are using media RTD items, which is located in this Field Properties tab. Finally, Content Studio allows you to do the same task multiple ways. So for example, if I wanted to align this spray chart, so if this spray chart was located here, I can realign this by going up to Format, Align, and then Align to Top. Or I can right-click on the image, Align, and Align to the right. So now my presentation is, my spray chart is aligned properly within my presentation. Finally, we gave you the cookbook in the download at the beginning of the webinar. This packet includes several quick guides on different software to help Daktronics users with outputting and displaying real-time data. These programs will help enhance the fan experience. So I'm going to pull up this cookbook here. For example, spray charts are a great way to show a quick visual recap with batter headshots, just like the one I am currently playing here. So in the cookbook, we can scroll down to the table of contents, or on the left-hand side, we can click on this Bookmarks tab and select Table of Contents. Again, we can scroll down to spray charts and select that. It's going to take you directly to that section. In this cookbook, it's going to give you a breakdown of the initial settings for the specific software that you are interested in using. So this is an easy-to-use guide to ensure you're getting the most out of your control system. If you're interested in any of the software packages included in this cookbook, please reach out to your account service manager for more information. You can find the service and support map in the reference document included in this webinar, and we've got that here for you. The reference page is pretty simple to use, and we can select the Daktronics support map, and you can find who your account service manager is. That concludes the webinar to get your system season ready. Please remember to visit the Daktronics Control Systems YouTube page, the Daktronics Facebook user group, and the Daktronics.com/support for any refresher videos, help, and much more. I'm going to pass it back over to Mark for any questions on anything that we have covered in this presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Melissa. So does anybody have a question on the second half of the presentation?
Mark, I had a few people just reach out to me privately over chat, so I can certainly go through those questions with you right now. One of them is using the display monitor. I know is it okay to keep that monitor open during the game, or is that just for pre-event check, or I guess how is that intended to be used?
Yes, you can keep it open during the game, but generally, within Display Studio, it does, minimize your taskbar at the bottom, and it goes all the way, full screen mode. It's kind of meant to be, during your event, that's where you are, but, for troubleshooting, definitely it would help. You could also, while you're in Display Studio in that DSDI widget, it will also kind of flash as data is coming across. So if the reason you wanted to keep it open was to make sure data was still passing through, you can see the data there, or you can close it and quickly reopen it if you're having any kind of issue. But it shouldn't hurt anything having it open during the game.
And do we have I know for people that are Venus 7000 users, is there an alternative to using? Is there another way to look at data there?
Yep. So if you do not have show control, you also can download Data Monitor. It's not already installed on your system, but probably the easiest way to do it would be go from the Venus 7000 shell. You hit the Diagnostics button, and there's an RTD tab. From there, you could select your input, and you could hit Template View, and that should open a very similar feature that you should see your data coming through there with your data field labels.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess if people wanted that data monitor, they could probably talk to our technical support group to see if that's a possibility. Another question is if I don't see data coming in there, what should we do? Is that a problem, or?
Yep. So, say pre-season you get everything fired up and you open up a game in DAXstats and you don't see anything coming through when you go to your DSTI widget, go in Data Monitor. First thing, make sure there's a little circle, either a grayed out or a green light next to DSTI, within Display Studio. That should be green, just letting you know that DSTI is on and working. The next step I would do is probably double check your network connection with, on your DSTI computer and also on your stats computer. So if you have, DAXstats running on a different laptop than DSTI, just make sure they're both connected to the network. And you could also open up the command prompt and ping one of the other IP addresses to make sure there's communication there. If that doesn't fix it, there's probably a setting, and you could reach out to our tech ops, give us a call, and they'd be happy to give you a hand with that.
Would you say that's probably the most common issue if it's not communicating, is just maybe the network dropped off or something like that, or is there another common problem that maybe we could resolve when they don't see data in there?
Yeah, I mean, it also could be a setting. So if maybe the software was reinstalled, and it might be a setting that says, all right, well, the setting might be, Daktronics is on the same computer as DSDI. Whenever you reinstall the software, maybe it defaulted to that setting, and it just needs to be changed to the DSDI is on a different computer. So there's a couple little settings in there, but generally something like that is a setting.
Okay, that's good to know. Another question I saw come up, and I've seen this before too, is that preload button. Do we have maybe if somebody could describe an example of how maybe somebody would use that?
Sure. Say you have for a moment of exclusivity, say if you're an 8,000 run system and you've got an outfield display, maybe 2 fascias, and some IPTVs. So say you want to have, maybe it's a Pepsi home run or a Chick-fil-A home run. You want them all to pop up right at the same time. You kind of make them all in that preload, and just kind of makes it so it's just a little more instant. How the 8,000s work a little bit differently than our 7,000s. So what that preload function does, it moves that piece of content onto the video card or the graphics card ready to be sent out. So it just makes it happen that much faster and that much more in sync.
Okay, so I don't necessarily need to use preload for every button, but just more for your MiLB moment? Okay.
Yeah, just when you want things to sync up perfectly. I would actually probably normally recommend, only use it for that. That way you don't have to click things twice whenever you want to play things out.
Okay.
And also, if you go and you click on preload, you can cancel out. So, say, somebody hits a, long pop fly, it looks like it's going out. You go ahead and hit it, get it preloading, and ends up somebody jumps, halfway over the fence, catches it, and you don't want it to go out. That's fine. You could just hit cancel instead of send.
Oh, that's a good thought. Oh, that could be bad. Okay, that's a good example. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Mark or Melissa?
Also, any general questions as well.
I see some people were asking about downloading that cookbook, and we'll get to that slide here in just a minute.
Yeah, the cookbook will be a great feature. It's a great thing to have in your back pocket. Something for a rainy day. You could do a lot of things in there, and the great thing about the cookbook, every section it lets you know what software is required. So if you don't have some of that software, you can always reach out to your customer service representative, and they can work with you on getting that software.
Well, we might as well jump to that slide now, and we can show people again the MiLB cookbook is under the Files pod, and if on the right-hand side you can click on those horizontal stripes, and then you should be able to download both the reference document and the cookbook, or you can just click on the cookbook and download that one if you just want that one. And you can also copy over those web links as well. Those are the ones that Melissa mentioned. We'll leave that up for a while so people can download those things at their leisure. Any other questions